Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another jewelry making video at keepsakecrafts.net. In a recent video, I showed you how to make feathered fringe earrings. And I used shiny silver findings, and I found as I was writing the description for them, calling them gypsy and bohemian, that the shiny silver findings really didn't do it for me for gypsy and bohemian. And that got me to thinking of ways that I could change it up. And that's just what I'm going to show you how to do today. So here's one of those feathered fringe earrings that I made, and I like them. They're fun to wear, very dangly, but they're almost a little bit too shiny silver for me. In fact, I've had these hammered rings in my stash for quite some time, and although I like them, I don't use them as much as I thought I would because, I don't know, the shiny silver doesn't always do it for me. So I figured out a really easy way to change them into something definitely a lot more gypsy and boho looking. And it's really quick and easy, and if you've done any scrapbooking or paper crafting, you may already have the supplies on hand. Because what I used is embossing powders. It's a really super easy way to change your findings to make whatever look you like. And really all you need is some ink. This is called Versamark. It's a clear, sticky ink. It doesn't have any color, but it makes whatever you put it on sticky. And we'll need that to get started with embossing our metal pieces. Then, of course, you'll need some embossing powders. I love this one. It's called Verdigris. That's the color I did here. But you can use any embossing powders you like. I've got a whole drawer full of them from the days when I did a lot of scrapbooking and rubber stamping. So a great way to use up those supplies. If you like, you can actually mix your own colors. I like this ochre, but it was a little too bright for me to go with the green. But the white was a little too white. And so what I did was I actually mixed half and half in just a little plastic container. And now I have a custom mix that's kind of this medium off-white. A pair of cross-lock tweezers comes in very handy here. I have a baby wipe and also a paper towel nearby just to help clean things up. So I'm going to press that in to the ink, make it sticky. Clean that off my fingers. Grab it with the tweezers and drop it in the embossing powder. Cover up your ink so it doesn't dry out. Shake it up in there. I'm going to wipe the excess off my tweezers. You will get some buildup of the embossing powder on your tweezers, but wipe off as much as you can. And then what you need is one of these. This is an embossing gun, just what we would use in our rubber stamping. I always take my powders, put it way far away because I'm always concerned about blowing into it and making an utter mess. And then you just take your embossing gun and turn it on, so this will be a little noisy, and you heat the powder until it's melted. So I've just muted the embossing gun here because you don't want to listen to that. I really hope that you enjoy and benefit from the videos that I make for you, and if you have been inspired, I hope you might consider becoming a patron. When you become a patron, you get great rewards like chances to win some of my creations, bonus videos, templates, sneak peeks, and you also get the satisfaction of knowing that you're keeping these tutorials coming for everybody. Now while it's still hot, go ahead and drop it back in the powder for a second coat. Now the bigger the metal piece that you have, the longer it will take for it to melt. And you need to know your embossing powder. Like the distress ones aren't ever going to get shiny. So your test for whether or not it's done is if it doesn't come off. After it's cooled off, you rub it, and if it doesn't come off, then you know it's melted. But once your metal is hot, then it will take a little less time. So for all my pieces, I did 2 coats. That just covered it completely. By the way, if you're interested in the supplies I used, you should click on the link in the upper right of the video or the link in the description box to go to my blog post. For every tutorial I make, I always have a blog post where I have a complete supply list with links to product. And once your piece is done, it doesn't take long for it to cool off. Just kind of wave it in the air a little bit. Don't drop it directly on the paper because it's still sticky. and you'll mess up your finish. There we go. You can tell it's melted because my tweezers are stuck together a little bit. That's okay. You can just scrape that off with your fingernail. Sometimes it's called embossing enamel, but it isn't enamel at all. It's really like little tiny particles of plastic that melt with the heat gun. So let me show you one more time with one that you can really see the melting going on. I'll do another feather. In this one, it's kind of a iridescent green. And I'm purposely leaving part of that silver and not putting it in the ink, and then I can just dip it in there. So these are a little easier to manage. And because the feather is smaller, you'll see that the embossing powder heats up and melts much more quickly. There it goes. And that's that. And on the feathers, I just put one coat on because I didn't want to obscure all the detail. And that's all you need to do. You can make yours in any colors you want. And when I showed you the feathered fringe earrings, I suggested that if you didn't like the big dangle factor for earrings, you could also use them for a pendant. And so that's what I'm going to do here, is just put together some random loops and feathers and just make a necklace pendant. And here's another cool trick for you. If you want your piece to be a little bit more crusty looking, what you can do is melt it in, and then once before it's cool, dip it in the embossing powder again, but don't heat it. So while it's still kind of melty and sticky, I drop this back in this embossing powder, let it cool off completely, and then use my fingers to rub off the excess. You can see the difference between these two. This one has the smooth, melted in finish, and this one has some of the unmelted bits embedded in the embossing powder that was melted previously. So I hope this has given you some ideas for maybe taking some findings that you weren't so enamored with in the beginning and put them together to create something really cool that suits your taste perfectly. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and take a peek at my Patreon page for how you can get rewards and help support these tutorials. Happy creating. Bye-bye.